Good morning. We're here today with Donna Talarico, who is the founder and director of an online journal, Hippocampus, and also a conference which has come out of Hippocampus called Hippocamp, which is now in its fourth, I believe.
Sixth?
Oh my goodness, Donna. The sixth year of working out of Pennsylvania. Lancaster is where it's held, focusing on nonfiction. And also, she has now begun to become a print publisher as well, and has done some anthologies and individual collections. So welcome, Donna, and tell us a little bit about what Hippocampus does.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Phil, and hello to everybody watching this. Hippocampus magazine started as an online journal, exclusively online, exclusively creative nonfiction. I came up with the idea. It was founded in 2010, but the first issue went live in May 2011. And we publish personal essays, flash nonfiction, parts of memoirs that are self-contained. And we have a blind reading process. And we started out publishing monthly, but as we grew and got more submissions and things, we now publish bi-monthly. So we have a January, February, March, April issue, and so on and so forth. And in addition to the creative content, we also publish articles such as book reviews, a writing life column, a craft column, and interviews. So that goes along with our mission is to entertain, educate, and engage readers and writers of creative nonfiction. So we have things for the general audience and we have things geared toward writers. And yeah, we've published more than 100 issues, more than 800 writers. So it's been really great.
Tell us a little bit, Donna, about for a new writer, for somebody who is coming along and encounters Hippocampus online, they submit their piece through Submittable, and tell me what happens then.
Sure. Yeah, so we use a program called Submittable, which is kind of the standard now. So if you do have a Submittable account, it's great because a lot of magazines use it, and it gives you a spot to manage your submissions. But from the editor side, what we see is the submissions that are coming in, and we also we brought on board another volunteer editor to handle our flash section. So between me and Ray, she reads the flash section with a set group of readers, and then I look at the longer pieces with a set of volunteer readers. So how it works is the reading panel goes at the stories, and I assign them in batches of like 12 to 15 each. And people vote yes, no, or maybe. But I tell them not to vote maybe because if it's maybe, that means it's not a definite yes. And then they can leave comments as well. And again, the work is judged on the work itself. The reading panel cannot see the name, cannot see the cover letter. In fact, we don't require a cover letter. And then the ones that rise to the top, then I come around and read those. And then
you make the final selection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I generally make the final selection.
What would you say, now you've done this for 10 years, and what have you learned about your own taste and about good writing and how you recognize it and differentiate it from writing that's not as good?
Yeah, I think with creative nonfiction, we tend to see a lot of essays where people are still really close to an event that they wrote about, or they're just kind of clearing their throat. They're just saying this is what happened, and there's not a lot of reflection back on it. So those are some of the things that we see that maybe will make us turn down a piece. The pieces that I'm personally drawn to are, oops, sorry, I'm fixing my shirt here. The pieces that I'm personally drawn to are stories of resilience, kind of like the underdog, kind of those gritty stories. I personally like those as far as, what my favorite memoirs are. But I think that's why it's great to have a reading panel go through everything because everybody has different tastes. And that has allowed some really different pieces to come up. We've had some nature writing. So I think, long story short, it's pieces that we remember. So if we, do some reading for the day, we shut down the queue, we go home, we're eating dinner at night, and then I turn to my husband, Kevin, and say, I read this story today about this. Like, those are the stories that stick with us. So I think it's just something that makes us feel, that either cares for the narrator or changes our thinking in some way, or just inspires us to think. So I think those are the stories that we're most drawn to. But again, we publish a wide variety of themes, so it's hard to pick just one, but definitely make us care about the narrator. And most of the time in nonfiction, that's you, or maybe somebody close to you. So make us care.
Right. You mentioned memory, Donna, and I think it's a wonderful story about naming Hippocampus.
Oh, yeah.
Want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I didn't mention where Hippocampus was originally thought of, but it was in Kirby Hall in Phil Brady's publishing class during the MFA residency. And to this day still, I think you are charged with doing some type of project at the end, and you present it at the end of the week. And I worked with some fellow classmates who were also nonfiction writers, and we decided to do a nonfiction magazine. We were throwing around names, and I thought of, well, Hippocampus, that's the part of the brain where memories are formed, and it's shaped like a seahorse. That could be a fun logo. So I really like this name, Hippocampus. We ended up not going with it for the class project, but I bought the domain name, I signed up for the Twitter account and said, I'm doing something with this one day. We do get some science essays, about neuroscience, every now and then, because people don't necessarily, they don't look at what we do, they just look at our name. But for the most part, it's just a fun name that we've been able to play off of with our conference name, Hippocamp. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's funny you should say that. Every once in a while you get some neuroscience. Every once in a while I get a query saying, finally, a press devoted to the work of the ancient Etruscans. So
that's funny. Yeah, and it goes to show that, when people say, don't submit to a magazine until you know what it's all about, it's true.
Right.
And, in the MFA program, they would always tell us that. I'm like, people don't do that. Come on. And now as an editor, I get fiction and poetry, and it really, you can't judge a book publisher by its name.
Right. And speaking of book publisher, you have now become, you've branched out into publishing print books and anthologies. Tell us a little bit about how that came about and what it's wrought.
Yeah, I am a very tangible person. I am the person that saves phone books and saves encyclopedias, from the thrift stores. And but when I founded Hippocampus, my budget and also my skill set led me to do an online journal. But I always hoped one day that we could do something in print. So the first iteration of that was an anthology that celebrated our first 5 years. We called it Selected Memories, and it was going to be 20 pieces, but it ended up being 33. So 33 pieces from our first 5 years. And that was like a trial run for us to work with a book designer, layout designer, a printer, and how it all worked. So the process went great. So that same year, we decided to launch our small press division. And the first book that we did, and we opened it up again, like the magazine, to a blind reading process, and we had some readers go through. And the first book that we published was called By the Forces of Gravity, which it'll be a little hard to see on the webcam, but it's an illustrated memoir told in free verse. So it's kind of completely different than what we thought. I mean, we publish nonfiction, so we just assumed our first book would be an essay collection or a straight memoir. But instead, we found this hybrid story and fell in love with it. The second single author book we did was also a little bit different. It was by a Wilkes alumni, Sam Shirelli, and it's called Dig, A Personal Prehistoric Journey. And it's part memoir, part travel, part science writing, and it's just all about a love and curiosity for dinosaurs. So those were the first two single author books that we did. And then we started an anthology series. It first just was going to be an anthology about radio, just how I'm a tangible person and like to save the phone book. I also miss terrestrial radio, when radio before everything went digital. And so I wanted to kind of have a nod to that. So decided to do a collection of essays from all different authors about radio. But it kind of grew into a series called The Way Things Were. So the second book is about diners. It's called Dine, and that just came out. We have 2 more that are in the queue that we already have the stories picked for. Ink is about small town local journalism, and Maine is about Main Street America, small family businesses, mom and pop shops. And then we have a call for submissions out for 2 more, which will probably be published in 2022, about corner bars and road trips and family vacations. So these are all just kind of, and I think because I've entered my 40s and I'm getting nostalgic for my youth, and the world is changing so fast, and a lot of these things are disappearing that I grew up with, and even the millennials who are the next generation that are coming up into their 30s, they're, things are disappearing for them too that they grew up with. So these books are kind of a testament to the way things used to be. So we hope that continues to grow.
Wow. Now, Donna, you have a marketing background. That's kind of where you began. Tell me a little bit about how you market these books, what avenues, what resources that you employ.
Yeah, that's, book publishing has evolved in how you have to market it. And, in the past, you would get reviews in the bigger papers, take out ads in publishing magazines, or do merchandising in bookstores. And you probably, the publishers had a lot more budget back then. So today, and as a small press, we don't really have that budget. We still do the reviews. We send out review copies. We try to curate a list. So for example, By the Forces of Gravity, I didn't mention this. It takes place in the 70s in Berkeley, California, kind of like the hippie era. So we customized a list to advertise it to bookstores that I looked up some lists and I found the most hippie town in every state, and things like that, to just find, bookstore owners and maybe people that might be drawn to that book. And then also publications that covered, that sort of, all the standard places, but we also reached out to people that covered comics and graphic novels and things for that book. And for Sam's book, we reached out to all the stores in like gift shops at museums and in towns where dinosaur discoveries were. And his book was a travel book, which is great. So we had a lot of the names of the towns already in the book. So we reached out to the local interest. So that's kind of, we try to hone in on a really focused list. And we do broader things too, but we do want to find that focus. That way we have a better chance of getting covered. And another thing that's really important to us is content marketing. So that involves either us producing content around the book, around the themes of the book, or the author doing that. So that could be, for example, Sam going on a podcast dedicated to fossils and talking about his book. Or if there's a new dinosaur, there was a museum in Brazil that burned down, and he ended up not doing this, but he had the idea to write a response article about what that means to have that history just go away. So finding things in the news to write off of, which is, an old PR technique, but it's just kind of a new way. So story pitching and writing stories and getting out in the media, blogs, podcasts is how we do it. And of course, we encourage our authors to have their own social media presence, their own email marketing, and to really market to people that already have a relationship with them, but at the same time, getting them to grow their audience so they have more people to market to. So we partner. We expect as a small press that the author will be enthusiastic about promoting their own work and want to do that. And then we also, at least for the first year or so of the book, especially at the launch and for the pre-sale, really do a lot to get the word out.
That's great, Donna. I love the idea of customizing each marketing plan to the book's content, and also I take it. I think something that a few people realize is how important the author themselves are in terms of being a marketing resource. And you know, the author really can't afford to be a recluse and
Yeah.
uninvolved. You know, I think we have maybe a kind of a stereotype, you know, of the author as being up above all of that marketing, but in fact, the author is really important.
Yeah, it's so true, especially in nonfiction, and not even nonfiction like we publish, but you know, for like the how-to books or the self-help type books, inspirational books, you know, a lot of that is really based on your personal platform. And platform is a word that gets thrown around. And I think there's varying levels of a platform you need. But if you are selling a book that you're the expert in something, you know, your name better be out there in newspaper articles and magazines and, you know, speaking engagements and things like that, just to kind of add to your credibility and authenticity. And that can help you, you know, if you're doing all that before you have your book out, then you'll kind of have a better chance of maybe getting published because your potential publisher or potential agent might see you already out there making a splash in your subject matter. It's a little harder for, you know, fiction because, you know, you're a little removed from the story, but there are ways that you can develop platform that way as well.
Right. Well, tell us now about Hippocamp, which, as they say, is in its sixth year, and what's involved with that, Donna?
Well, I love conferences. My day job is in higher ed, content marketing, web marketing, and there's a big conference I go to every year called High Ed Web, which really inspired me. And it was unlike any conference I had been to. And I figured there was a gap in the creative nonfiction world with conferences. So I thought, well, let me throw our hat into the ring and create an experience like no other, because you have big academic conferences like AWP. And then you have small retreats with maybe a well-known author that are in an exotic location. But there really wasn't a mid-sized conference. And then there definitely wasn't one that focused just on creative nonfiction. Now, two other nonfiction magazines, Creative Nonfiction and River Teeth, did have their events, but those were a little different. Those were more workshop-based. So in 2015, we started the conference. We hold it in a conference center. You know, it's 3 days. You get breakfast and lunch, so that way you have time to talk and meet people. And we do an open proposal system where we don't hire faculty. We just invite people to submit a proposal to be a speaker. And in each time slot, we have about three, now we're up to 4. We have 4 sessions in each time slot. So we have a variety of content. So it's not just the craft of creative nonfiction, but it's also, we have sessions about platform and marketing and how to get published. And we also have a section about the writing life. You know, how do you do all of this and still be a parent or still be have your day job? How do you, you know, if you're writing about trauma, how do you protect yourself? So we do a lot of those personal type things as well. So it's just a big variety. And we have about 250 people at our biggest conference. So it's still small and close-knit, but big enough to give you opportunities to meet more people and have a lot to choose from. So it's grown really organically. You know, we do some paid advertising, but for the most part, it's now word of mouth. And you know, at the time we're recording this video, it's during COVID, so that could impact this year's conference. But we're hoping to, you know, make this last every year.
Wow. When we go to the website, hippocampus.org, is that right?
Hippocampusmagazine.com.
Hippocampusmagazine.com. When I go to the website, one of the things I find really extraordinary is the robust masthead, the number of people that you've got involved at all levels and with bios and things like that. And certainly one avenue of getting people involved has been the internships. Tell us a little bit about how, if I were an intern, either at Wilkes or perhaps even at some other university, what could I expect from an internship at Hippocampus?
Yeah, now that we have the three areas, the magazine, the press, and the conference, we have multiple ways for interns to get involved. Traditionally, interns have served as part of the reading panel, and that really gives them a chance to see. Now, it's only nonfiction, so so if you're interested in writing that genre yourself, it's such a great learning experience because you'll see what what a well done story looks like, what something that needs work does, and it helps you be a more critical reader. And I think that helps you in your own work. So I think that's a really valuable experience. And even interns who work with us in a different area, like a different area of focus, we'll still add them to the reading panel. So during their downtime, they can still read. And now that we have the small press, we have an intern this semester who is reading the query letters and the sample chapters. So that's a little different because we're not just accepting a piece for publication. We're looking at, is there a market for this book? Do we want to see the full manuscript and read it? So, so it's a little different of an experience. We also have internships to help us copy edit the books or the magazine. Marketing internships that can help us do things like build media lists or look for bookstore shops like the hippiest shops or the museum gift shops. So to curate, really curate media lists or bookstore lists. Helping with writing social media content for the books. For example, like maybe a dinosaur fact every Monday, so whatever content marketing plan we come up with for the book, the intern can help with the writing of the content for that. If there's an intern who has a flair for design and is interested in publishing and the actual creative process, we have graphic design internships that you can create social media graphics, things like that. So yeah, it's just all around. We had editing internships, acquisitions, help with developmental editing, like I said, copy editing, marketing, publicity, just what I like to do is see what the intern is most interested in, what their career goals are, and sort of customize an internship around that. Like we have basic buckets. Are you going to be an editor? Are you going to be a designer? Are you going to be a reader? But then we can kind of tweak that based on what's on our production schedule and what that individual student is. And the other way I look at it is something that the reader or that the internship hasn't done before, that doesn't know something, that doesn't really know about it, but it can challenge them to learn something new. So that's kind of how we approach the internships. And it's also done remotely. So and this is something that I'm learning because I haven't really ever managed people remotely before I started doing this. So it's just how can we work together and collaborate together using these online tools and hold each other accountable when we're not seeing each other in person every day.
Yeah, if anything good is going to come out of this terrible plague, I think it's our increasing realization of the viability of remote collaboration.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Hippocampus is obviously already set up for that, and I think that I think there'll be more of that kind of work with, for instance, just these particular interactions. 2 weeks ago I didn't know what Zoom. I thought Zoom was some kind of what you say when you go up in a rocket, but
Yeah.
it now turns out to be an interface that gives us the chance to meet and
Yeah.
to talk and to congratulate you on this incredible journey that you've undertaken, really just conceived out of an idea and passion and the savvy to recognize that this was something that was needed. So great job, Donna, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
I keep saying us as if I actually have other people here. It's really just thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome.
All right.